The time has gone by so quickly that it's amazing to think that we're already halfway through our magic summer. This month and next are all about the 3 magic S's that we as a faith community need to provide our children, our families, and our members of all ages to connect to our deepest inner lives, our congregation, and the joy of life around us. These 3 S's are service to others, silence and mindfulness, sunshine and movement. Each of our Sunday services during July and August lines up with our Magic Summer RE classes, which take place at 9:30 a.m. So we made seed balls and wrote out some promises that are like the seeds of our community. We explored water justice and reflected on the importance of access to clean, safe water. We created book notes and bookmarks to share the love of reading and learning. We made dog treats and talked about compassion for all creatures, great and small. And today, we wrote cards of encouragement for elders, and in this service, we remember that we're glad for everyone's gifts, including the promises that we make to one another. It's fitting that this is our topic for today because it brings together all the pieces of our mission. For example, the fact that different people bring different gifts to build community is cause for wonder. It would be boring if everybody brought the same thing. And it would mean we were missing some things too, like a picnic where everybody brought potato salad. Then, appreciating one another and being glad for the different things we bring is about love. It's about respecting one another in our differences, and not just respecting, but celebrating our differences. Making sure that everyone has a place and that there's a place for everyone's gift is hospitality as a form of service to one another and to our community itself. And being willing to share our own gifts with one another is, of course, generosity, allowing our community to thrive and grow because we are willing to give of our time, talents, and treasure. So today we'll explore this, as we're doing during our Magic Summer, through storytelling, reflecting, wondering, and sharing. We'll also revisit the promises wall that we started at the beginning of the month, since each promise we make is a gift we bring to our community too. Let's begin, though, by singing together. Can we know what's going on in someone's life just by looking at them? Do we know someone's life story just by seeing them somewhere? What do you think? No, we can't and we don't. Imagine if instead of jumping to conclusions about someone we don't know, we instead thought of them as having been a great leader, a warrior, an explorer, someone who has maybe fought dragons on mountaintops while the rest of the world slept, unaware, unknowing. Perhaps they have another equally amazing story to share. I've encountered this idea a few times this week. We shouldn't judge people based on how they first seem to us. People bring all sorts of things with them: needs, fears, experiences, hopes, almost all of which is invisible to us. If we do something, for instance, and somebody gets angry with us, it may not actually be about us at all. Someone's reason for being somewhere may not be the same as our reason. And what we expect from someone else may not be what they intend either. Everyone deserves an opportunity to be themselves. So we have a choice between hindering them by putting them in a box before we even know them, and helping them by giving them room to find out who they are for themselves. Of course, if we can talk to one another and learn about one another, that makes a big difference. Any opportunity to hear one another's stories, whether it's sharing a snack with someone or in a fellowship circle or in a breakout room, any time we have to listen with a loving mind is one of the kindest things we can do for someone, because then we allow them to share themselves with us. And being in community, after all, is about sharing ourselves with one another. Being somewhere and taking what we need and never giving anything back, that's not being in community. Imposing our own expectations on everyone else, that's not being in community. Assuming we know all that we need to know and that nobody else can teach us anything, that's not being in community. And pointing out what we bring while downplaying what other people bring, that's not being in community either. Because being in community means valuing what everyone brings, no matter how different and varied that might be. At the beginning of the month, we got a look at the different and varied things that people bring to this community in terms of the promises that we make to one another. We wrote 50 promises in all on cards just like this one. Between the people on Zoom and the people here in the sanctuary, including a number of children, 50 in all. And we pinned them up on our promises wall. Let me move the camera so that those of you on Zoom can see it. There it is, 50 cards. Let me zoom in a little bit, not that you'll be able to read them all, but you can see how many there are. Almost half of the promises, half of those cards on the wall, were about connecting in love, being kind, listening to one another, treating others with respect, being friendly and helpful. Here's one of those. I promise to treat everyone the way I want to be treated, with love, acceptance, and respect. Here's another, short and sweet. I promise to be a friend. A number of the promises were about engaging in service, supporting members and families, helping people to learn and grow, working for justice, practicing stewardship and hospitality. Here are a few of those. I promise to provide people with opportunities for personal growth. I promise to work toward justice and equity in the community and world. I promise to use my skills and gifts to actively serve the fellowship's members. A similar number of promises were about inspiring generosity, both financially and in other ways, supporting the UUFP and its leadership, sharing talents and creativity, encouraging others to get more involved. Here are a few of those promises. I promise to be involved in body, spirit, and financially. I promise to plant the seed that grows for the benefit of all. I promise to model the audacious spirit of abundance. And there were as many promises that were about growing in wonder too, being open to what we don't know, to possibility, to the unexpected, embracing growth and change, practicing humility and humor, understanding that life is an adventure to be undertaken in company. Here are a couple of those. I promise to never deal in absolutes and to make more promises as I grow. I promise to take this world more seriously when I must, and less seriously when I can. Some of the promises, of course, touched on more than one of the parts of our mission. I promise to be kind and giving of myself and accepting of change as we grow together in community. I promise to actively participate by listening, learning, and growing in spirit. I promise to be present for those who need it and to lean on the community when I need to, rather than trying to go it alone. In a couple of minutes, I'm going to invite you to consider one of these promises as a gift that someone is bringing to this community. You get to choose. I'm going to ask you to select a promise that you didn't make so that you can reflect on it and ask yourself some wondering questions, such as, I wonder what this promise meant to the person who wrote it. I wonder what this promise means to me today. I wonder what this promise could mean for our congregation. I wonder what it would mean for me to make this promise. I wonder what other promise I might now want to make. I wonder how I can be glad for this promise as a gift to our community. For now, though, let's sing about meeting one another where we are so that we can find ourselves. Thank you for sharing what you wondered about one of the promises posted on our promises wall. If you are inspired to add another promise to the wall, you are free to come up and write one on a card after the service. Or if you're on Zoom, you can post it in the chat and I'll transcribe it onto a card for you. If you took down a card, please pin it back to the wall before you leave. Our promises wall will be up at least through the end of August, so you're welcome to add a promise anytime you are in the building as well. Our Magic Summer RE class this morning, which was about creating cards of encouragement for our elders, ended with the words, may we remember our grandparents and elders, and may they feel loved. For most of us who are no longer children, and who may even be grandparents and elders ourselves, this generally doesn't translate to our own lives' realities. But I think the sentiment can still carry over for us as a congregation. After all, we are the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of the Peninsula because elder generations started a liberal religious community here and helped it grow. We say the names of Richard Hudgens, David and Lily Dick, Bill Moses, Ken and Bernie Haggard, Keith Dixon, Ed Chambers, Lou and Wendell Ayers, Margaret Calm, and others, because we keep them in blessed memory as our UUFP founders and elders who helped make this congregation what it is today. We can speak of them and tell their stories, of course, but we can't write cards to actually give to them. When we make promises to one another, though, we're doing the next best thing. We can't encourage our elders who are no longer with us, but we can encourage one another. We can promise one another that we will continue their legacy, growing the liberal religious community that they founded and shaped, helping the UUFP to live into its mission and become the congregation that they believed could be so much for so many people. So when one of us makes a promise here, it's not just a gift to our community in the present, it's also a gift of gratitude for the past that has brought us here. And it's a gift of blessing for our future together. May we remember our founders and elders who made this community possible. And may we love and care for one another as we build on their legacy. May it be so.